New York, and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ladies and gentlemen, they call him the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now. He has a fight this weekend at Madison Square Garden against Amir Khan. Terence Crawford is in the building. TC, welcome, man.
Thank you.
How are you, man?
I'm doing good.
Are you what is the zone when you're in the Tuesday of a major fight week? Where is Terence Crawford? Like mentally? Chilling.
Just chilling.
You seem super relaxed right now.
Gotta be.
What day did you finish like training?
Yesterday.
Yesterday was your the last like real workout year?
Well, I'm still training up to the fight, but my intense training was last week.
And so what do you do this week?
Just maintain, just stay sharp and, shake off the little pounds that I have to shake off and save the rest for the fight.
How important is this fight for Terence Crawford, both in terms of your boxing career and just in terms of mainstream sort of visibility? It's on ESPN pay-per-view, which is a big deal, a new thing for ESPN. It's at Madison Square Garden. It's against a name that a lot of people know who's fought a lot of big people. How big do you consider the Amir Khan fight to be?
This fight is very big. A lot of people may not look at it like that because of Amir Khan's knockout loss to like Canelo and them. But this is a very big fight, being that he never lost in the welterweight division. Amir Khan has a big following, and he's actually a great fighter in his own right. So this is a big fight for me.
Is that a fundamental misunderstanding that people have about boxing when they see someone take a loss, that they then think all of a sudden they sort of think of the person much differently when, as you said, for example, in the case of Khan losing to Canelo, okay, yeah, but he's never lost at this weight class. Do a lot of people sort of misunderstand what that means?
A lot of people don't know boxing. They'll see a fighter lose one fight and then they'll discredit him and say, oh, well, he wasn't as good as we thought he was, or this and that. But styles make fights. A fighter can lose to a fighter that beat the fighter that they lost to.
Right, of course.
It's boxing. Anything can happen. It's crazy.
When did you know that you wanted to be a boxer?
I started boxing when I was 7, but when I actually knew I can be something in boxing, I was about 13 years old.
And when you were, do you have thoughts and memories of when you were 7 years old, what you thought about what you were doing? Like, did you right away enjoy it, or were you unsure?
I just enjoyed hitting the speed bag and fighting. That's all I wanted to do was spar. I didn't really know too much how to box and know the technique and all that. I just wanted to get in the ring and fight. I enjoyed fighting the most.
And so why at 13? What happened at 13 that let you know, like, okay, this is something I might be able to do on a different level than I realized?
Well, it all happened when I had got kicked out the boxing gym, and I came back.
Why'd you get kicked out?
I was just hard-headed, not listening to the coach. Me and the coach were going back and forth, jawing at each other, and I was just one of them little reckless, bad little kids running around. When I came back to the gym, with a different mindset. I wanted to learn. I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to travel. So my first national tournament was the Ringside Nationals. And I won it, and it was just like, oh, man, I got a belt. Like, I want to do this. Like, I really want to take this to the next level. So,
were you scared the first time when you're that young and you had a fight?
Never.
Never were scared?
Never.
The idea
it was
of
always fun.
Really, the idea of being hit was never something that you thought about?
I told you when I was 7, all I wanted to do was fight.
Well, I guess there's one thing about being like, hey, I wanted to fight in the gym and spar with people, but then when you're going into a fight against someone you don't know at all, I don't know if another level of nerves kicks in. You know what I'm saying? But it never affected you that way.
Nah. When I was little, it was, let's go. When I got older, then, sometimes I would get nervous, being that I was fighting the best in the nation. But as far as when I was little, I don't know what that felt like. It was all, let's go in there and fight, fearless.
And regardless of if you ever took a big shot, nothing ever changed you. Because sometimes there are people who change. They get hit with a certain shot and they feel it in a different way than they'd felt anything previously. But for you, that was never a factor.
Well, when I got hit hard, it just made me want to come back even harder. You know, you hit me hard, I'm gonna try to hit you harder. That's how I just always felt. I'm coming right back.
And so were you able to be a regular teenager, or was your boxing training so much so that there was no regular teenage life, high school, etc.?
I was regular. I was, playing other sports, getting in trouble out in the streets. I would say I had a regular teenage childhood.
What other sports did you excel at?
Basketball, football, wrestling. Not too much of wrestling and baseball, but basketball and football, I would say.
Were either of those sports that if you'd pursued those, you think you could have been successful in?
I don't know. I felt I had the talent, but I felt like I was undersized. Basketball, I could shoot, I could play defense, but I was undersized. I couldn't dunk. I couldn't, I wasn't the fastest. But my work ethic was on another level. You're not going to outwork me. So I felt like that helped me in both football and basketball and transferred to boxing.
At that time in your life, this is like, I guess we're going back like 18 years or so, what fighters were you watching and were you the most inspired by? I'm assuming Mayweather, De La Hoya, names of that era, but tell me who your favorites were.
Well, my favorite always been Roy Jones Jr., Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker. We used to watch Mike Tyson old fights and Holyfield old fights and Ali old fights. I was just a student of the game. My coach used to come and get me from home, so I wouldn't skip the gym just to watch boxing tapes. So I had the pleasure of watching all those great fighters in their prime on tape, when I didn't want to, but I grew to like them as I got older.
Recently, the boxing landscape sort of changed when HBO decided to move on from boxing. I know how a lot of boxing fans felt about it, but as a fighter yourself, what did you think about HBO deciding to move on from boxing?
It was crazy, being that when I was a little kid, when I was coming up, that's all you wanted to do was be on HBO boxing. HBO and Showtime. Showtime had Mike Tyson, and HBO had all the other great fights. So coming up, you would think, like, man, I want to be on TV, but I want to be on HBO because they got all the great fights.
They had Roy, they had De La Hoya, they had Floyd. Yeah. That whole, really, you're right. Everyone but Tyson, basically, at that time.
So coming up, you want to be on HBO.
Yeah, and now the landscape has changed, and you have DAZN, and you have ESPN in business. How complicated do the different networks and streaming services make the prospect of getting some of the great fights that we want to see happen?
It's very difficult, but that's not the lane that I'm in. So I can't speak on it because I never sat in a meeting with those guys and try to make a fight happen. So from the outside looking in, it's real difficult because you got different promoters, you got different channels, with the DAZN, with PBC, with ESPN. Everybody want the bigger piece of the pie. So it seemed like at times they can't agree to certain things and certain terms to make fights happen, or don't even want to because they feel they don't need to at that particular time.
Well, we were talking off the air, and we were talking about Vasyl Lomachenko, who's an incredible fighter to watch and had a spectacular knockout on ESPN this past weekend. And I was asking you about the prospect of him getting a big-name fight. And, of course, you were schooling me on some of the people he's already fought and how in boxing he's already fought a lot of respected people. And I was kind of saying to you that as the casual fan, he hasn't had that marquee fight yet that everyone has talked about. Does someone like him need a fight like that? Like, does Lomachenko, for as good as he is, need a Mikey Garcia fight? for the world to take notice of exactly what he's doing?
But the world already take notice of how great he is, but at the same time, I believe he do. We all do, not just him. We all need that dancing partner to take us to the next level, to becoming great. When you look at all the great fighters, they had one or multiple great fighters that they fought in their prime that either they won or either they had a tremendous fight with that labeled them a great fighter in their prime.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, so many people are not considered great until they've had the great rivalry,
Right.
until you've been truly challenged. Someone who comes along and knocks people out time after time after time without going to war with people. Sometimes it's those two matches, that trilogy, that really sets someone apart. And now there was such frustration for me because we all know that the heavyweight division is such a big deal for boxing, and a lot of it trickles down. If the heavyweight division is doing really well, it always seems that it helps the state of boxing in general. And we got this incredible fight between Deontay and Tyson that I think was way better than anyone, at least for me. I didn't expect it to be that great a fight. I thought stylistically it could be awkward, and yet it turned out to be amazing. And now they're in different places, and I don't know if we're going to get that fight again. Does that, as a fan, does that frustrate you? Like, as someone who loves the sport, like I feel, are they going to settle their feud? Is anyone ever going to fight Joshua? Like, what are your thoughts on the heavyweight division?
Well, the heavyweight division haven't been the hottest division since Tyson, I believe.
It's been 20 years, really.
So I think everybody's not really looking at the heavyweight division as the go-to division in the sport of boxing.
Because you're so used to it at this point.
Right. But don't get me wrong, that's one of the biggest fights to be made, but like I said, it's the promoters and, it's not even just the promoters. It's the whole business standpoint where you got two undefeated champions want to fight each other, and you got one that feel like he deserved most of all the pot.
Yeah.
Because of his following or whatnot, and you got the other one like, hold up, I'm knocking out everybody I fight, and I'm champion of the world just like you. So what makes you think that you get 70-30 or 60-40? We're gonna do this 50-50. So, that's when things get complicated.
Do you generally, boxing has so many different kind of weird images that go with it. Because in one sense, it's the sweet science. It's this amazing sport. It's culturally so sort of integral to what America is. Like when you think of historic sports moments and sports figures from Ali to Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, it's such an important sport. At the same time, there's always talk about boxing being dirty, whether people are talking about the commissions and not trusting who gets to be a contender and how that process works, or people not liking the scoring of a certain fight, or people accusing promoters of being one way or another. Just your experience as a man in boxing, making your living in boxing, are you happy with your career in boxing? Not in the ring. That obviously is in your heart and you just love it. But from a business side, how do you feel about your time in boxing?
Honestly, I feel like I should be farther than where I'm at right now, personally. I stated that.
And what do you attribute that to?
Because I feel like coming up, I wasn't given the same opportunities as other fighters that came out the Olympics and, had a big promoter behind them and, this big name or come out of a big city. I come out of Omaha, Nebraska. I didn't go to the Olympics. So I had to get everything from ground up. Whenever other people, they started in the middle.
Right. They get a track. You get a track from the Olympics.
They started on TV, so people already noticed them. Yeah, I was a top amateur. I was ranked #1 at the time and so forth, but I lost in Olympic trials, so all that doesn't matter, But at the same time, yeah, I feel like I should be far along in my career than I am right now.
What do you think needs to happen in order for you to right that ship, for you to end up? But obviously, it starts with beating Amir Khan on ESPN pay-per-view on Saturday, which is a ton of eyeballs and a big fight against a marquee fighter. But what else do you think Terence Crawford has to do to take those steps?
Just keep winning. Like I always say, everything will come into place. It'll fall through. Just keep winning. That's it. I keep winning in the fashion that I've been winning in. Then there's going to be no denying the fact that I'm the best fighter in the world.
Is it crazy to you the other night during the broadcast when you hear people like Max Kellerman and Andre Ward not hesitating to call you the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? What does that feel like to hear?
It feels good, for them to say that, but I want the world to say it. I got to demand that because, yeah, they might feel and think that way because they've been watching me for a long time and they've been seeing the type of fighters that I've been fighting that's good fighters, but don't nobody give me no credit for it.
Right.
Like I beat this fighter, he's undefeated. He beat this guy, he's a world champion. And the fashion that I beat him in, it's like people take credit for me. Now if I was in a tough fight with him, because this guy is this tough guy that's supposed to give me the hardest fight of my career, then they'll probably give me credit for it. But
that's so true.
But
that is a weird thing about boxing. Like I said earlier, if you're too dominant in a certain way, people don't take notice of the fight the same way.
Right.
You have certain fighters who, God bless the dead, people might not think of Diego Corrales in the same light had he not had wars with people. It was the wars that made him this hero.
Right.
I mean, he was a really solid fighter, don't get me wrong, but I think the fact that he had the fact that it was this constant back and forth wars with people, it's sexier, right? So if you just come in and blow people out, you don't necessarily end up getting the credit that you deserve when really you're showing that you're the more dominant fighter.
Right.
But obviously that's not something you can keep in mind because who wants to go to war? Who wants to volunteer for that when you get in the ring?
Right.
Your goal is to dominate and get out.
That's right.
What do you expect from Amir on Saturday night?
I expect a tough Amir. He's motivated. He's got a lot to gain, nothing really to lose. So I expect him to come in there motivated more than ever. You got a lot of people writing him off. He's going to come in there and try to take my title.
Yeah, he has an opportunity to change the course of his career on Saturday night, and you're the guy who's expected to stop that from happening.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about Omaha, Nebraska. First of all, do you get the love and respect in Omaha?
Of course.
And who is the next biggest current star from Omaha, Nebraska? What else is popping in Omaha?
Omaha is crazy because I got a lot of love and support in Omaha. But Omaha, just like any other city, you have your little haters, that when you fight, they want to go against you just because everybody going with you.
Right.
I don't see what's so hard about giving somebody their respect and saying, "Oh man, you good." You're
from here, yeah.
It's kind of hard for certain people, that grew up with you or in the same neighborhood as you to just give you your props and just congratulate you for doing stuff that they couldn't do. But it's a lot of up and coming fighters in the gym right now that's talented. The thing is about Omaha, there's been a lot of talented people that come across Omaha way before me. It's just sticking with it. A lot of people get discouraged and be like, all right, man, I ain't going nowhere from Omaha. I got to give me a job. With me, I was like, I'm going to make it work. Like, there's no denying the fact that I'm putting all my eggs in one basket and we going to ride this thing out. Me and my mom used to always get into it because she wanted me to go to college after I graduated high school. And I'm like, no. Like, boxing, this is what I'm going to do. She like, well, what if boxing don't work? I'm going to make it work. Like, I don't care. Like, one way or another, I'm going to be world champion.
Well, you won that argument.
Right, I did. You know,
and so you didn't have a plan B. This is it.
This was it. You know, a lot of people ask me if I wasn't boxing, what would I be doing? I said, I don't know. That's all I put everything into was boxing. You know, wake up before school, 4 a.m. I used to go run and do sprints, and Grover Wiley used to have me doing strength and conditioning. You know, I'd be falling asleep in my first period. You know, my teacher would be like, I know you was working out, Terence, but you got to get up. You know, and that's the love that, you know, I was getting from my teachers because they knew what I was going through. And, you know, it paid off.
Well, listen, you can watch a major piece of this story that you were just hearing about, the Terence Crawford story, on Saturday night when he takes on Amir Khan. Titles on the line, pound for pound, the best in the world. Thank you for coming by, man. It's on ESPN pay-per-view, by the way. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.